Hey, how's it going? Daniel here from Dark Label Music. I have an exciting video today because I'm actually going to pull back the curtain and show you the bank statements from my music production company from about, I think I pulled from maybe halfway through 2016 into 2017, so that you can really see what's possible and how you can make thousands a week producing music independently. We didn't have any managers, any labels, none of that stuff. No like special fancy connections. We just ran it like a business, and we were able to control where our clients were coming from. We leveraged the internet. We built a brand. We charged enough for our services. Mostly basic stuff, but it worked pretty well. We were able to build it into something cool and then actually leverage that into some kind of bigger opportunities and connections and things later on. So, of course, like always, my path is not the only path, but I think a lot of you will find it interesting because a lot of you may not know what's really possible out there. So I want to show you the proof first, but then of course dive into actually how we did it so that you can learn some things and go try some of this on your own. So I'm going to jump down here to the screen and pull this up. Now obviously I've blocked out some sensitive information, account numbers, things like that, but we're just going to go through each one of these. So this is Songwriting Teams, my company, by the way. If you don't know who I am, that's the name of it, so that's what that means right here. April 2016, we did 17,600. May, 13,600. June, 14,600. July, 17,400. August, 14,700. September, 18,200. October, 16,800. November, 14,100. December 2016, 16,000. January 2017, 20,200. Okay, so that's what we were doing at the time. So as you can see, 4-figure weeks every week, super consistent. There are little waves depending on like when payments landed, but for the most part, pretty consistent, and that's because we had systems in place to actually bring in clients. Now, keep in mind, this was me at the time and a partner who pretty much did all the production work. I handled business development, and we had another full-time guy who did project management and was a songwriter, and then a couple of freelancers here and there. So obviously there's expenses and things like that, but we were able to build it pretty big and pretty consistent and make a good living. So let's talk a bit more about kind of how we did it. I'll start first with the model. Get my pin situation going here. Because there's a lot of like different ways. You got guys recording bands in like local studios. You have beat leasing. You have sync licensing. You have all sorts of different things. So our model, which wasn't super popular at the time in 2000. So we started in 2013, by the way. So what you just saw is about 3 years into the business. 2013, this wasn't super common. It's very common now. But essentially, we just worked directly, direct to client, and we did it online primarily. Okay, I'll talk about some of the other little revenue streams, but the bulk of it, like how I started the company in 2013, pretty much 90% online clients. And then as we went on, later we relocated to Nashville, and I'll talk about that. We, maybe bumped it to 80, 20, or 85% online, 15% local. But we're working directly with clients. Most of them are independent artists. So I'll put down here, artists, some brands, very rarely, but every once in a while. And I'll talk about how we kind of, again, leverage some of this to get some like sync placements and all that kind of stuff too. But we didn't get any sync placements in that year that I just showed you. So all that revenue was just from direct to artist and a little bit of sample income from a sample pack. We had bought a sample company, but maybe only 1,000. That was the first year. So maybe 1,000 to 2,000 a month was coming from that. The rest was from working directly with artists. Again, 85% online, maybe 15% local. Okay. Whoa. Fast zoom there. So direct to clients, artists primarily. we weren't really or we had like mid to high level, high end rather, mid to high end services. Not super super crazy, but not cheap either. Because it was a couple of us, we were obviously able to take a lot of volume, and we had a lot of clients reaching out, which I'll talk more about. But just for example, like if someone was reaching out just for us to make them a track, like a beat, which was all custom by the way, that was like about 600 to 1,000. If we were fully producing the song start to finish, that's more like 1,200 to 2,500 on average. And then every once in a while, we would have little things that were maybe 300-400 if we were just writing a top line or something like that. And we grew into those rates again by about year 3. And like most people do, we started kind of pretty cheap, worked with low-end clients, and then over time just built that up and got better clients, got better at our craft, charged more, etc. So that's kind of the deal. So we weren't doing we weren't like doing like beat licensing stuff. Well, caveat, we owned a beat licensing company, but it was more so to bring leads in for custom work. We didn't really make much money off the actual licensing beats because we work primarily with pop artists, things like that. So, but for the most part, this is not the model of licensing beats. Okay, this is working direct to artists. They're paying you a chunk of change to produce a song, help them, develop, find their sound, all that stuff. Again, didn't really rely on sync stuff. For the most part, we didn't have those connections. That world, unless you're really dialed into it, is kind of hit or miss, obviously. We did have one kind of big one that I'll talk about and how that came about, but again, no real income coming from that. And not much coming in from like royalties, again, primarily working with independent artists, so that's not a bulk. That was nowhere near the bulk of the money, obviously. So anyway, so that's the model, okay? So let's talk a bit about how we were getting clients. So in the beginning, I'll kind of show you the progression. In the beginning, we were kind of doing like anyone does, right? Just wherever we can get clients. I was out in Los Angeles, so I would put meet people locally and put together sessions, cheap little $15 an hour sessions. I remember going on like Craigslist and just like blasting like all over the United States just to get gigs, and I think we were charging like $250 or $300 to do full demos, full production demos for people. But we were able to kind of find a gap there. Not a lot of people were doing that on Craigslist, and we got like a ton of work that way. And that's really what started the company, surprisingly enough. Obviously, most of these clients aren't great, but at the time, hey, we were year 1 of the business, so we weren't that great. So it was a match made in hell. Funny enough, though, I did, and I'll probably do a different video on this, I did get a $30,000 project on Craigslist one time for an app, and it was sheerly because they didn't know where else to look. So we'll go on Craigslist. They found us. We did a bunch of songs. For my first year and a half in business, they were pretty much paid our salary there. So that was pretty cool. So that's how we started in the beginning. Now, over time, though, we had to have more control over where the clients were coming from. So we pretty much dived into my background before launching a production company was in the corporate world in marketing. And so I'm not really a producer, by the way, for those of you watching this, more on the business side. But my background was in marketing in the corporate world. And it was all about in that space, it was like, hey, where are the clients at? Wherever they are, where are they searching for stuff? Let's get in front of them. So ultimately, there were a couple of places that we ended up getting clients from, okay? So one bubble that was really big for us was Google, because there's people searching for services online. Hey, I need a producer. Hey, I need a songwriter. And we got in early, again, 2013, and locked down a bunch of those keywords, key phrases. So we had a lot of traffic coming to the site. We were making a lot of articles about what independent musicians wanted to read about. That would bring them onto the site, and then we'd have a way to say, hey, we produce too if you want to chat about a project. Again, maybe not as relevant nowadays, but that's one of the ways that we started. So we got a footing there on Google. Later on, we added a couple things, like I'll put like other platforms like SoundBetter. We were one of the first people on there when they were really kind of growing, so we would get a little bit from there. And YouTube videos. We had a YouTube channel, which now is the Make Pop Music channel, but back in the day, 2015, it was the Sarning Team channel. So we would get clients through that, and then we would have, our local clients as well. I started the business in Los Angeles, moved it to Nashville in 2014 when I got a partner. So we were doing some local stuff, and I'll talk more about the local stuff. I actually want to kind of keep this separate, and I'll show you why in a second why I'm going to keep this separate. So these three main things were how we were getting clients. And then of course, people would come in through these channels, they become a client, we do a good job, and then of course, there's like referrals, and then just like some word of mouth stuff. And everybody kind of relies on these things, and referral and word of mouth is obviously great, right? But you can increase the amount of referrals and increase the amount of people talking about you if you're front loading on this stuff, right? The more people we had coming in on this side, then that means the more people, are going to be talking about us on that side. So before you knew it, we would have, 4, 5, 6 projects a week, again, with a couple of people working on them. And it was a mix of new clients coming in through these, and repeat clients and referrals, coming back in as well. So that enabled us to then kind of leverage into some other things, okay? And this is important. The next and some of this was like, at the time, like looking back at it now, I think we had a kind of a knack for what was going on. We were able to identify opportunities and make them work for us, but it wasn't really that planned out. So I'm kind of showing you this now in hindsight, sort of what happened. So because we had this company, let me get my pencil here. Because we had this company, we were able to, move it to Nashville and start leveraging it for bigger, better things, okay? So like, example of leverage is one, we could start hiring, what's going on with my pen here? Hiring local talent, okay? And because we were hiring local talent for singing gigs, all that kind of stuff, like a lot of session singers mainly, some instrumentalists, mixers, things like that, we put goodwill into the market. People are like, oh, these guys are cool because, one, they're doing things a little different. It's not like the traditional Nashville thing. They're online, and they're bringing work here and, bringing money into the economy here. So because of that, like a lot of these people that we were hired either became clients or, were out talking about us, or would actually go out and bring us like co-writes in. So like, hey, you got to go write with these guys. And a lot of times that would turn into clients. So on the local front, this generated a whole new kind of stream of revenue, a piece of our business that honestly we didn't really plan on having. When we moved to Nashville from Los Angeles, it wasn't like let's work with local people necessarily. We were fine, like online was cool, but just so happened, there you go. So that's leverage, right? That's why it's so important to like build something, because once you build something, it'll leverage into other things. Like it puts you in a different level, right, of how you think, of who you're going to be around. For example, so like then one of those clients would be like, oh, these guys are really good. Let's you guys need to meet my sync agent. So we never planned on getting into sync, and then All of a sudden, we're working with the sync agent and get a placement. Cool. There's some other revenue that's coming in. Or like, oh, you have to meet this guy. He's, cool mixing engineer guy. It's like, awesome, sweet. We meet him, become friends. He ends up selling us a sample pack company that he created. So it was a really good acquisition on our part. It was already making money. We got it for a really good deal. It's turned a profit in month 3. So that, there you go. So, but it's all because of this right here. It's all because we built something first on our own, not relying on anyone else. And then because of that, it just put us in a different position to like leverage and meet the people that we want to meet. Another client who knew us again from local was like, oh, I got a friend that you should, work with from New York, named Juliet. So we worked with her. She was dope and ended up getting a Billboard charting record with her. It was Heat Seekers, but still Billboard, still cool. Cool, particularly for her, pumped for her. And then, it ends up that her boyfriend at the time is, this really notable and hilarious, talented YouTuber. So later on we got to do some work for this big YouTuber. So everything like it's this blend of like when people are saying, hey, it's just about connections, who all that kind of stuff. Like it's definitely not a lie. Obviously it's not a lie. But then you're also hearing like, oh, but then there's these people that have control over their business and they're more, marketing themselves and all that kind of stuff. Like which way is right? Which one do I do? And it's like, I think either one's fine. It's up to you, but both can happen. They don't have to live in separate places. Okay. Like we built our own thing first, but then sort of leverage that into other things. For example, my business partner at the time, Christian, at the end of it, when we were like, cool, like let's do, where do you want to go from here? Where do I want to go from here? He decided like, hey, Dan, I want to really focus on the local stuff. That's like, where I want to spend my time. Cool. So he went on to do that and ended up staying in Nashville and doing really well, and then moved to LA and is doing, I can't tell his business, but he's doing very good. So trace things back to like the starting point, and it's all because we started something on our own. We built something on our own. We didn't wait for anyone to like put us on. We didn't worry about like what other people would think about. Well, sometimes we worried about it, but we didn't let it affect us. What other people felt about our business model or how we were doing things or how we appeared or any of that stuff. We just kind of did it, built our thing. We were able to make some money, and then leverage all that stuff to get other opportunities and do other things. So hopefully you find that cool. I can dive a little deeper into actual like strategy stuff, but I just wanted to show you the overview, kind of my story and how we built this thing up and what's really possible and what you can do, and that there's no rules and that all the different ways are right, and you can blend them together and make something really cool. So hope you enjoyed it. Down in the description below, I have some links to some cool things to check out. A masterclass that gives you an opportunity to have a chat with me about your business. We have a group, a Facebook group. We have the Producer Files, which is a monthly business journal.